the mute girl who saved 35 Hell's Angels, and they repaid her with a school that changed the world. Asterisk, asterisk, never underestimate someone just because they can't speak. Sometimes, silence is louder than 1,000 shouts. If you love powerful biker stories, then stay with me. Because what this little mute girl did shocked 35 Hell's Angels and changed thousands of lives forever. Asterisk, asterisk, River Glen was a small mountain town where everyone knew everyone. The lakes stayed calm, the winds carried secrets, and the nights were quiet. Too quiet. Far away from the bustle of the valley lived a little girl named Ella, a 10-year-old child who had never spoken a single word since birth. Doctors tried, specialists came, but nothing changed. Ella lived in complete silence, but her silence wasn't empty. Her world was filled with movements, vibrations, lights, expressions. She listened with her eyes and spoke with her soul. She lived with her grandmother Nora, a kind woman who often said, "Ella doesn't speak, but she understands more than all of us combined." Ella communicated with sign language, carved into her small, graceful hands. She loved drawing, fixing small broken toys, and spending her evenings sitting by the river, watching ripples form patterns only she understood. But something else lived inside her too, a strange awareness, an intuition that felt almost supernatural. As Nora once said, "This child, she feels danger before it comes." And she wasn't wrong. The day the Hell's Angels arrive at one warm summer afternoon, 35 Hell's Angels bikers thundered into River Glen. Their engines echoed through the streets, leather jackets shining, tattoos telling stories of war, loyalty, heartbreak, and roads conquered. They belonged to the Iron Souls chapter, led by a giant man named Reaper. Reaper stood 6'6", heavy beard, intimidating eyes, but a strangely peaceful aura beneath the surface. The townspeople panicked when the bikers arrived. Shops closed early, windows slammed shut, kids were pulled indoors. But Ella, she didn't run. She stood silently at the corner of the street, her eyes wide, her hands clutched together. And that's when Reaper saw her. He slowed his bike, noticing the little girl staring not with fear, but with curiosity, interest, recognition. Reaper's voice rumbled, "Who's this little one?" "Tank." Another biker laughed, probably scared stiff, but Reaper shook his head. "No, look at her. She ain't scared, she's studying us." Ella lifted her hands slowly and signed something. Ghost, the quietest biker, recognized it. "She's saying, 'Welcome.'" The men stared, touched and surprised. "Who welcomes Hell's Angels? A child who can't speak. That's who." Reaper placed his hand over his heart, a gesture of respect. Ella smiled a soft, shy smile and ran back home. The angels rode on, but destiny wasn't done with them, not even close. The secret Ella diased over already 2 days later. At sunset, Ella sat near the river sketching a picture of a motorcycle. Suddenly, she felt something strange, a vibration in the earth, a tremor, a warning. She looked toward the old abandoned timber mill near the cliffs. She didn't hear anything, but her body froze. Something was wrong. She hid behind a tree and saw armed men, wearing masks, gathering inside the mill. They carried crates, explosives, guns. She didn't understand everything, but she knew one thing: the Hell's Angels were in danger. Those men were planning something against them, something deadly. Ella tried running toward town, but she froze again. She could not scream. She could not call for help. She could not warn anybody with her voice. Her silence had never felt so heavy. Her heartbeat raced. Her hands trembled. Tears filled her eyes. How do you save people when you cannot speak? Ella wiped her tears, took a deep breath, and ran as fast as her small legs could carry her, straight toward the Hell's Angels' temporary camp outside town. The girl who can't speak saves them. Ulat, the biker camp. The men were laughing, fixing their bikes, grilling meat. Ella arrived, breathless, sweating, terrified. Ghost saw her first. "Hey, what's wrong?" Ella desperately waved her hands, signing fast, too fast. Reaper stepped forward calmly. "Slow, slow, little one, show me." Ella grabbed a stick and drew in the dirt. She drew the timber mill, the men with guns, the explosives, and then she pointed at all. 35 bikers. Ghost translated her frantic signs. "They're planning to kill us, all of us." The camp went silent. Reaper's face turned stone cold. Tank stared with disbelief. Ghost swallowed. Reaper knelt in front of Ella and placed his massive hand on her shoulder. "You saw this, you sure, sweetheart?" Ella nodded so hard her whole body shook. She pointed again and again. This was no imagination. This was real. Reaper stood up. Mount up. Now. Engines roared. The dust rose. The angels moved like a storm dot, and Ella ran after them, her heart pounding, praying with her silence. The rescue at the MIL. When the angels reached the abandoned mill, they found everything just as Ella described. The armed gang was preparing an explosion big enough to wipe out the entire biker chapter. A shootout began. Bullets flew. Engines revved. Shouts echoed through the valley. Reaper fought like a lion. Tank swung heavy chains. Ghost rescued 2 trapped members. In the middle of absolute chaos, Ella appeared again. She had followed them. She pointed frantically behind a stack of crates. Reaper looked. There were more explosives. Hidden, a second, larger bomb. If it detonated, the entire place would collapse, killing all 35 bikers. Reaper roared, "Disarm my..." Ghost rushed in, cut the wires, and stopped it with just 23 seconds left. They would have all died, every single one, because of a mute girl. 35 Hells Angels lived. The FTR matters when the police arrived and arrested the gang. The angels gathered around Ella. Tank lifted her and spun her around. Reaper hugged her tightly but gently. Ghost said, "Little one, you saved our entire family." Ella smiled shyly and signed, "Friends." Reaper wiped a tear one nobody expected from a man like him. "You're more than a friend. You're our angel." The town that once feared the bikers now applauded them. But the biggest miracle was yet to come. The angels, DICIACO, and Ella's grandmother Nora invited the angels for dinner as thanks. That night, Reaper noticed Ella watching a video of sign language lessons on a broken tablet. Her eyes glowed with hope and sadness together. Reaper asked Ghost, "How many deaf kids are in this town?" Ghost replied, "A lot. Some go without proper schooling. Some parents can't afford special education." Reaper clenched his jaw. "Not anymore." Tank asked, "What are you thinking, boss?" Reaper stood up like a general before a war. "She saved us. Now we save others like her." Ghost stared. Tank nodded. Reaper continued, "We're building a school, a big one, for every deaf kid within 100 miles. Nora gasped. Ella froze, tears welling instantly. "For her," Reaper said. "We're doing it for her." When the world tried to silence them again, the wind over river Glen felt different now. Where once there had only been the quiet hum of small-town life, there was now a new sound almost every afternoon. Children's laughter, not loud, not chaotic, but a soft, rhythmic happiness, carried through hands instead of voices. Outside Ella Hope Academy, 40 kids stood in a loose circle, signing simple words to each other. "Friend, play bike." Home. In the center stood Ella, now 13, her hair a little longer, her posture a little taller. Her hands moved with confidence, translating feelings into gestures. Behind her, under the shade of a big oak tree, 3 parked Harleys shined in the sun. Reaper, Ghost, Tank. They watched like proud uncles. Tank grinned. "Look at M. Not a word spoken, but I swear I've never heard a playground this loud." Ghost nodded slowly. "That's because you're finally listening with more than your ears, brother." Reaper didn't say anything at first. He stood there, arms folded, eyes fixed on Ella. She was teaching a new boy how to sign his own name. The boy's hand shook. He kept messing it up. Ella just smiled and repeated the sign slowly, patiently, again and again. The boy laughed silently when he finally got it right. It hit Reaper in a way he didn't expect. "I've seen men survive bullets, prison, deserts, storms," he thought, "but this is the bravest thing I've ever seen." A new problem later that afternoon. The town's mayor, Harold Bennett, drove up to the school. The angels recognized his car instantly, sleek, polished, too clean for the dusty road. Reaper muttered under his breath, "Ah, here comes trouble in a tie." Mayor Bennett stepped out, sunglasses on, forced smile ready. "Afternoon, gentlemen," Reaper replied, without moving. "Afternoon, Mayor. You lost, or just being nosy?" The mayor gave a strained chuckle. "Just doing my civic duty. I heard the academy's enrollment has grown a lot." Ghost stepped closer. 237 kids, as of this week. Bennett's smile tightened. "Yes, impressive, but that comes with certain regulations, permits, safety codes, capacity limits." Tank rolled his eyes. "Here it comes." Bennett pulled out a folder. "According to a recent state review, This land is zoned under an older category. Schools of this size, technically, they're not permitted here. Reaper's jaw flexed. What are you saying, Harold? The mayor adjusted his tie. I'm saying, in about 3 months, the academy could be forced to shut down unless it meets the updated code. And that means reconstruction, new safety inspections. It will cost a lot. Ella had walked up quietly behind them, notebook pressed to her chest, eyes flicking between Reaper and the mayor. She couldn't hear the exact tone of their voices, but she could feel the tension like a crack in the air. The mayor glanced at her, and, for a brief second, guilt flashed across his face. Then it disappeared. I'm just here to give you the information, he said. What you do with it is your business. He got back into his car and drove away, leaving a cloud of dust and anger. Tank kicked a small stone. They're really gonna try and shut down a deaf kids' school. Ghost folded his arms. It's not about the kids. It's about the land. Developers have been sniffing around this hill for months. A big resort, big money. Reaper turned to Ella. She looked up at him, eyes asking the question her voice never could. What's happening? He knelt down, took her notebook, and wrote in clear block letters. They want to close the school. Ella's eyes widened. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Her hands trembled as she signed, WHY. Reaper swallowed hard. He signed back slowly, clumsily, using the signs she'd been teaching him for months. Money, not good people. Her eyes filled with tears, not the kind of tears from being afraid. They were the tears of someone who had finally been given a home, and now someone wanted to take it away. Ella wiped her cheeks roughly. Then, without hesitation, she grabbed the pen and wrote underneath Reaper's words, "We fight." The silent Matei and G that night. The town hall was packed. Parents of deaf kids, volunteers, teachers, townsfolk, they all filled the seats. On one side of the room sat the Hells Angels, leather cuts gleaming under fluorescent lights. Reaper, Tank, Ghost, a few others. On the other side, Mayor Bennett and 2 men in expensive suits. Their watches probably cost more than a teacher's yearly salary. Bennett tapped the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. We're here to discuss the zoning issue regarding the Ella Hope Academy." A murmur of disapproval swept through the crowd at the mention of the school. In the front row sat Ella, her grandmother Nora, and a line of deaf children, some holding each other's hands, some clutching small notebooks. They couldn't hear the arguing that was about to start, but they could see it. They could feel it. One of the developers, a tall man with slick back hair, stood. "We sympathize with the children," he said, the words sounding rehearsed, hollow. "But this property was never meant to support such a large institution. Our resort project would bring jobs, tourism, and long-term economic growth to River Glen." Tank whispered, "Jobs for who? Their friends." Reaper stayed quiet, eyes fixed on the developer like a wolf watching a fox in a henhouse. A mother stood up. "My son said his first word with his hands because of that school," she shouted, tears in her eyes. "You want to take that away for a resort? For tourists who don't even live here?" Applause and stomping followed. The mayor tried to calm them. Please everyone, settle down. We're not saying it will be closed immediately. We're just considering options." Ella watched his mouth move, watched his hands gesture, watched the faces around her twist with anxiety and anger. Every emotion hit her like a wave. Nora leaned close and signed in front of her. "Speak with your hands, child, they need to see." Ella blinked. She stood up slowly. The room fell strangely quieter, as if everyone felt something shifting. The girl who never spoke was walking toward the front. Ella's speech without Evia C. Ripper noticed her first. "She's going up," he whispered. Tank muttered, "Oh, this is going to be good." Ella walked all the way to the little stage where the mayor stood. She didn't ask for permission. She just climbed up. Bennett looked nervous. "Little Ella, right?" This isn't Reaper's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Let her speak." But Ella didn't speak. She turned around and faced the crowd. 200 people, some standing, some sitting, some glaring at the mayor, some focused on her. Her heart pounded so hard she felt it in her fingertips. For a moment, she froze. Then she remembered the day at the mill, the explosions, the guns, the smoke, the way the angels had trusted her signs without question. She took a deep breath and began. Her hands moved fast, full of emotion. Nora stood below her and started voicing the translation out loud. Ella signed. "This school is not just a building," Nora repeated in a trembling voice. "This school is not just a building. It is the only place where we are not wrong, not broken, not too quiet. It is the only place where we are not wrong, not broken, not too quiet. Ella pointed to herself, then to the children, then drew a big circle in the air for the school. You want to take IT away, for strangers who don't know our names. You want to take it away, for strangers who don't know our names. Her eyes locked onto the mayors, then onto the developers. The room was silent. Even people who didn't understand sign language understood her. Ella's hands slowed as tears slid down her face. If you take this school, she paused, palms trembling. You are telling us that our silence does not deserve a home. Nora's voice cracked. If you take this school, you are telling us that our silence does not deserve a home. One mother burst into tears. Someone shouted from the back, "You tell M, sweetheart." Ella wiped her cheeks and straightened her back. She made one final sign. We may be silent. We are not invisible. Nora said it loud and clear. The room exploded, not with anger, this time, with applause, with stomping, with people standing up, raising their hands to clap, or even mimic a simple sign they'd learned. Thank you. The developers shifted uncomfortably. Bennett looked stunned. Reaper felt his throat tighten in a way that scared him more than any bar fight ever had. She just led a revolution, he thought, without a single sound. The Angels PLN later that night, back at the clubhouse, the Angels gathered around the big wooden table. Maps, papers, bank statements, property laws, everything was spread out. Ghost tapped one of the documents. The only way they can force the school to close is if we fail the final inspection, or if we can't afford the upgrades. Tank whistled low. That's a lot of cash, man. Reaper leaned over the table, hands pressed firmly down. Then we earn it. One of the younger bikers frowned. How, we're not exactly Wall Street. Ghost smirked. No, we're better. Reaper looked at all of them. We saved their lives once, he said, thinking of the mill. Now it's our turn to save their future. We're gonna raise every dollar. Beg, build, ride, repair, haul, donate our own bikes if we have to. Tank grinned now, eyes lighting up with mischief. Charity rides, custom bike auctions, mechanics, workshops, concerts, tattoos for donation day. The ideas started flying. Sell merch, live stream our rides, partner with local businesses, get newspapers involved. Ghosts tapped the table again. We call it the Silent Speaks ride. Cross state, our whole chapter, and more. Every mile we ride, people sponsor, donate. A hush fell over the room for a beat. Then Reaper smiled slowly. That's it. We'll make so much noise on the road, the whole world will hear the kids they've been ignoring. The ride that shook the HIGHWIRS 2 weeks later. The first posters appeared. Silent Speaks Charity, run a Hells Angels lead ride to save Ella Hope Academy for deaf children across the state. At first, it was just their chapter. 35 bikers. Then another chapter joined. Then a local riding club. Then independent bikers from neighboring towns. By the morning of the run, the gas station at the edge of River Glen was filled with more than 20 motorcycles. Engines idled like distant thunder. Cars pulled over just to watch. News vans arrived. Drones buzzed overhead for live stream coverage. Ella stood beside Reaper, wearing a small leather vest they'd had custom made for her, with a patch that read, Silent Guardian. She ran her fingers over the letters lovingly. Reaper crouched down to eye level. Ready to change the world again, little one? He asked. Ella smiled and signed, always. She then held up a big cardboard sign she'd made for the cameras. We ride for those who can't be heard. Tank revved his engine dramatically. Ghost adjusted his bandana. Parents of the academy kids lined the road, holding their own signs. Some wrote thank you in big black letters. Some just held their hands up in sign language. Reaper swung his leg onto his bike. He shouted to the crowd. This is not about bikers. This is about kids they tried to ignore. Cheering erupted. Ella watched his lips and understood enough. She placed her hand gently on the tank of his motorcycle. Feeling the vibration, it was like feeling a heartbeat, multiplied by hundreds. That Reaper raised his arm, brought it down, and the Silent Speaks ride began. Money, media, and a message. Either ride covered small towns, big roads, highways. At every gas stop, people were waiting with donation buckets. Some threw in coins, some wrote big checks, some just hugged the bikers and said, my nephew is deaf. My cousin never got help. Thank you for doing this. News reporters followed. One reporter asked, Ghost on camera, Why is a biker gang doing all this for a school? Ghost smiled, tired but content. Because a little girl who never spoke told us the truth about ourselves. He said, we realized we'd spent our whole lives being loud, without ever really listening. Clips of Ella signing at the town hall went viral online. People reposted it with captions like, "This mute girl just gave the most powerful speech I've ever seen. Silence isn't weakness. Heroes wear leather jackets sometimes." By the time the angels roared back into River Glen at dusk, 3 days later, they were exhausted, sunburned, and stunned. Ghost counted the numbers on a piece of paper, his hands shaking. Tank asked, "How bad is it?" Ghost looked up, eyes wide. "We did it. And then some. Enough for the upgrades, inspections, and a fund to bring in specialist teachers for 5 more years." Reaper exhaled, for what felt like the first time in days. "We keep the school," he said. Ella stood nearby. Watching his face, Ghost turned the paper around and handed it to her. She read the total. Her eyes filled instantly. But this time, she didn't wipe the tears away. She let them fall. She looked up at Reaper. Her hands moved slowly, like a promise. "You saved us again." Reaper shook his head. His voice broke as he answered in sign far from perfect, but understandable. "Now did we learn from you?" The INSPCTUN. Weeks later, the state inspector arrived. He walked through every classroom, checked every emergency exit, tested every alarm. He measured rails, inspected wiring, checked ramps, reviewed documentation. The parents waited outside. The kids were gathered in the main hall, playing games with their hands. The angels leaned on the fence, pretending to be relaxed, failing miserably. Finally, the inspector came out with a clipboard. The mayor was beside him, sweating under his collar. "Well?" Bennett asked. The inspector looked at him first. "You were the one who reported the zoning issue, correct?" The mayor stammered. I simply followed protocol." The inspector turned to Reaper. "And you are?" Reaper stood straight. "Just a man who doesn't like bullies," he said calmly. The inspector glanced at the line of kids behind the windows, at the ramp decorated with colorful handprints, at the mural Ella had painted of hands reaching up to the sky. He cleared his throat. "The Ella Hope Academy now not only meets state standards," he said slowly, "it exceeds them." Cheers erupted. Parents hugged each other. Tank lifted Ghost off the ground for no reason. Kids jumped up and down. A few tried to sign "yay" with both hands. Ella turned to Nora and signed with lightning speed. "We keep our home." Nora nodded, cheeks wet. The inspector continued, loud enough for everyone to hear. "In fact, I'll be recommending this place as an example for other districts trying to build inclusive schools. You've done something remarkable here." Ella felt her heart swell. The mayor tried to smile, but it came out crooked. His plans, whatever they had been, were done. Reaper took a deep breath, walked over to him, and spoke low. "You tried to silence them again," he said. "Didn't work." Bennett looked down, shame finally cracking through his arrogance. Reaper didn't push further. The kids had already won. That was enough. Ella's gift. Back to the ANGLS. That evening, as the sun turned the sky into gold and pink, the angels gathered near the hill overlooking the academy. Ella approached them holding a small wooden box. She gestured for Reaper, Ghost, and Tank to sit. They obeyed like kids in school. She opened the box. Inside were small handmade leather patches, each painted carefully with white letters. She handed one to Reaper, "Silence speaks." One to Ghost, "I see you." One to Tank, "Loud heart." Then she pulled 3 more patches out, bigger ones, with the Ella Hope Academy logo. She pointed at their leather vests. At the bottom where smaller patches usually sat, her meaning was clear. "We're us, with you, everywhere." Reaper's eyes softened. "You're patching us in, to your family now, huh?" he said softly. Ella smiled. She signed, "You gave us a home. Let us ride with you." Reaper nodded and carefully sewed the patch onto his cut right there, pricking his finger once and laughing at himself. "Worth every drop of blood," he joked. Tank pretended to sniff. "Man, who's cutting onions round here?" Ghost looked out at the school, lights flickering on in the windows one by one. "We thought we were the ones changing their lives," he murmured. "But really, they were changing ours." Ella stepped closer to Reaper. She pointed at the school, then at his chest, then tapped her own heart. 3 movements. Reaper looked confused for a second. Ghost chuckled. "She's saying, school here, you hear me here, all connected." Reaper nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said, forever. A new kind of Elijah. And over the months that followed, the story of the mute girl who had saved 35 Hells Angels and then helped save an entire school spread even further. But now there was another chapter to the legend. The bikers who didn't just roar past small towns. They stopped. They listened. They built. Other biker groups reached out, asking how they could start similar projects. Some began volunteering at schools. Some organized their own Silence Speaks rides. And somewhere in every retelling, Ella's face appeared. A girl with quiet eyes and strong hands, standing in front of a crowd, hands moving like wings. A girl who proved you can be born in silence and still shake the whole world. The seasons changed in River Glen. Winters came with white silence. Springs arrived with blossoms. Summers burned gold. Autumns whispered through the leaves. But one thing remained the same. The sound of hands speaking. Ella Hope Academy grew into the heart of the valley. Every wall held stories. Every classroom echoed with fluttering signs. Every teacher carried a purpose. And Ella, the mute girl who saved the Hells Angels, was its brightest flame. She was now 16, a young woman with steady hands, sharp eyes, and a quiet strength that made the world slow down when she signed. But destiny was not done testing her. Not yet. This is where everything returns full circle. Where silence meets thunder one last time. Where Ella's life changes again. And the angels face the hardest decision they've ever made. The letter that broke every heart one cold morning. Nora rushed into the academy office, holding an envelope that trembled in her old hands. Ella looked up, confused. Nora opened it slowly. Inside was a letter marked, State Education Council PRI. Writer watched her grandmother's lips move as she read. The old woman's face paled. Ella touched her hand. Nora sat down, shaking, and signed, ELLA. They want you to go to Washington. Ella blinked. Washington, the capital, thousands of miles away. Nora continued signing. They saw your speech. They want you to represent all deaf children in a national education summit. Ella's breath caught. Her hands froze mid-air. Represent the whole country. A girl who never spoke. Her heartbeat thudded loudly against her ribs. Suddenly, the room felt too small. She sank onto a chair. Stunned, students gathered around. They could sense something big had happened. Tank walked in to drop off donated helmets for the kids' workshop. He saw Ella's face. Hey kiddo, what's wrong? She handed him the letter. Tank's eyes scanned it. His mouth fell open. Oh damn. Ghost came in behind him. What damn? What's wrong? Tank held up the letter. Ghost whistled. They want her to speak in DC. That's huge. Ella frantically signed. But I can't speak. Ghosts crouched in front of her. You spoke without sound. And the whole world listened. That's why they chose you. Reaper arrived last. He read the letter twice. Then again, his face softened. He knelt before Ella, towering even on his knees. Little one, he said quietly, that room needs your hands more than your voice. Ella looked down, fear filling her chest. She signed slowly. What if I fail? Reaper shook his head. You didn't fail us at the mill. You didn't fail the school. You won't fail now. Ella's eyes glistened. She signed with trembling fingers. But if I leave, who will help the kids? Tank laughed softly. Kid, they'll be fine. You taught them courage. You gave them a home. Now, let us take care of the rest. Ella swallowed hard. She stood up slowly and made her decision. She would go. The road to Washington. The Hells Angels prepared like they were going to war. But this time, the battle was not in the streets. It was in a government building. Reaper gathered the chapter. We leave in 7 days, he announced. A cross-country ride. Ella rides with us. Gasps echoed through the room. Ghost stepped forward. Boss, you're serious? Reaper nodded. She came to us for help once. Now we ride with her when she needs us the most. Tank grinned wildly. Washington's never seen a deaf girl and 35 leather-clad angels before. They're gonna lose their minds. Ella watched them, unsure whether to laugh or cry. She had one request. She wanted to ride on Reaper's bike. When the day came, Ella climbed onto the seat behind him. He handed her a small helmet painted with white wings. Matches your name, he said. She touched it with awe. Ghost adjusted the straps on her vest patch. Silent guardian glowing in the sunrise. The engines roared to life. The entire valley stood along the road. Parents, kids, teachers, townsfolk, they held signs. We love you, Ella. Our voice. Make us proud. Ella looked back at the school. Her home. She placed both hands over her heart. Reaper revved the engine. Let's give these politicians something they'll never forget. And the thunder of silence ride began. 2,500 miles of miracles. What happened on that ride became history. At every state line, crowds waited. At every fuel stop, people surrounded Ella just to watch her sign. At every motel, kids ran up to hug her. News channels followed the ride. Reporters asked Tank, "Why is a biker gang escorting this girl across America?" Tank smirked, "'Cause she's got bigger guts than all of us combined." Ghost added, "We used to ride for ourselves. Now we ride for the ones who were never heard." Reaper stayed mostly quiet, focused, protective. One night, in Tennessee, Ella sat on the curb outside a diner, staring at the stars. Reaper joined her. She signed, "I'm scared." Reaper nodded slowly. "Good. Being scared means the fight matters." He pointed at her hands. "Those hands changed River Glen. Now they're gonna change the whole country." Ella rested her head lightly on his shoulder. The man who feared nothing, closed his eyes, and feared one thing, losing her. The SUMIT Washington D.C. felt like another planet. Sirens, skyscrapers, guards with stern faces. Ella walked into the National Education Hall with Reaper, Tank, Ghost, and the rest of the angels behind her. People gasped. They whispered. Phones came out. A child walked in, escorted by a biker army. Reaper whispered, "You ready?" Ella signed, "YES." The hall filled with officials, educators, activists. Then the host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Ella Hope of River Glen, representing the deaf and nonverbal children of America." A spotlight fell on her. The room went silent. Ella stepped up to the podium. Her hands shook. Her throat tightened. Though she would not speak, she closed her eyes, then opened them with calm like dawn, and her hands began to move. Behind her, a giant screen translated her signs into text in real time. Ella's final speech without sound. She signed, "I was born in silence, but silence is not emptiness." The words appeared behind her. The audience leaned in. "Silence is a language, a music you hear with your heart." A senator wiped his eyes. "I could not warn people with my voice, but I warned them with my hands, and I saved lives." Reaper blinked back tears he'd never admit to. Deaf children do not need pity. We need opportunity. We need teachers who know our hands. Teachers in the audience nodded vigorously. "Build more schools. Train more teachers. Fund our programs. Don't make children wait years to be understood." Ella paused, looked at the audience, signed the final lines slowly. "Don't fix us. Understand us. Don't speak for us. Let us speak with our hands." The room erupted. Not with clapping. Not yet. People stood in silence and signed together, "Thank you." It was the loudest silent ovation in U.S. history. The cameras captured everything. The clip went viral. The country cried, and the world listened. The DECICON, the council, voted unanimously. New funding for deaf education, new teacher programs, new accessibility laws, new national curriculum, and Ella Hope Academy became a model institution. Ella was hugged, photographed, celebrated, but she searched the crowd for one thing. Reaper. He stood at the back, arms crossed, a proud smile hidden in his beard. She ran to him and hugged him fiercely. He whispered, "You did it, little one. You shook the whole damn country." Ella signed, "We did it." Returned to River Gillian. The angels escorted Ella back home. The entire town waited. All 250 students stood at the gate, hands ready. As Ella walked in, they signed in unison, "Welcome home, Ella." Her tears streamed. She signed back, "I missed you." Her grandmother hugged her tight. Reaper stepped forward. "Ella, there's something else." He nodded to Tank. Tank lifted a tarp off a brand new building on the academy grounds. A second school, a training center, and on the wall, a plaque, "The Ella Hope Institute for the Future of Deaf Education." Built by the Iron Souls Hells Angels. Ella gasped. Her knees almost gave out. Ghost caught her, smiling. "We figured the world's gonna need more teachers like you." Ella cried freely now, shaking as she signed. "I thought the journey was over." Reaper shook his head. "No, kid. This was only the beginning. The legend ends where it began." Years later, Ella grew into a woman admired worldwide. She trained thousands of teachers. She opened centers across the world. She became the face of silent language. And the angels, they continued writing, but everywhere they went, people didn't fear them anymore. They welcomed them, thanked them, respected them, because they were the bikers who listened. Every year, Ella stood at the hill overlooking the academy with Reaper, Ghost, and Tank beside her. The same sunset, the same quiet wind, the same mountain shadows. One evening, Ella signed, "Why did you help me that day?" Reaper looked out at the horizon. "Because you were the only one brave enough to stand in front of 35 bikers, and because your silence was louder than all our engines." He smiled softly. "And because family isn't chosen by blood. Sometimes it rides in on a Harley." Ella rested her head against his arm. Her hands moved one last message for him. "Thank you for hearing me." Reaper placed his hand on hers. "Always." The engines rumbled in the valley below. Ella looked at the school, hundreds of kids signing, learning, laughing, a world she helped build. A world built from silence. And that's how the legend ends. A mute girl saved 35 Hells Angels, and they saved thousands more. Silence became a movement. A girl became a symbol. And the angels earned wings no road could ever take away. If this emotional story touched your heart, then like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Bikers Hype. Help us reach our 1,000 subscribers target, and if you truly love the Hells Angels, then prove your love by sharing this story everywhere.